Hey guys, welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to be focusing on how to use Google Forms efficiently. My goal is the same as always, save you time, clicks, and mental energy. So instead of showing you everything, I'm going to show you my top tips to try to make your life just a little easier. First, I'm going to open my form. You can use the one we created in Foundations, or you can click New and select a new form right here, blank form. I'm going to use the one we already created and build off of it. So first thing I want to do is show you how to turn this into a quiz. So that's tip number 1. You're going to go to Settings and you're going to select this toggle right here, Make this a quiz. You'll see several options. You could choose to have it immediately released after submission. So that means a student pushes submit and automatically they have their score. Or later after manual review. You would want to use this response if a student had to type something in that you needed to check and read over yourself. Okay, so now that this is a quiz, we're going to go back to our questions and we are going to assign point values, set correct answers, and have Google set it to automatically score. First, what does the cat say? I'm going to select answer key and I'm going to select meow. I'm going to choose my points. In this case, I want 1 point. And I could even add answer feedback. If they got an incorrect answer, I could say something like, think carefully. And if they got a correct answer, I can give them some positive reinforcement and say, wow, great job. As always, make sure it's toggled to required so students don't skip this question. Okay, tip number 2 is to use sections. One of the best ways to keep your quizzes organized is to use sections. Let me show you how. You're going to come over here and select Add Section. So now you're going to see that my quiz is in 2 sections, Section 1 and Section 2. You want to make sure that your name is always in a section by itself, and I'll get to that in just a second why. But just so you know, this should always be isolated. And you could just drag this question and put it down here. So now it's in section 2 and section 1 is just the name. One really cool thing about sections is that you can move students to different areas of your quiz based on how they answered. So for example, with this question, what does the cat say? If my students answered a certain way, I'll click this ... and choose go to section based on answer. So this can allow for remediation as well as for some advancement for students who need that extra push. This is also how escape rooms are built, but we'll get into that in Module 3. Tip number 3 is to shuffle your questions and answers. If you are creating a quiz and you want it to be a little bit more secure, you are going to select Settings, and you're going to scroll down to where it says Presentation. Click this arrow, and then you can choose to shuffle the question order. Now, this is why it's really important that we put the name in its own section, because it's going to shuffle questions in every section. Since the name is alone, it's always going to be right there at the top of your quiz. If you didn't have it in sections, your name would end up somewhere in the middle or the end of your quiz, which could be confusing. Okay, tip number 4 is response validation. If you want cleaner answers, you're going to use this. So if you have like a math problem, what is 2 plus 2? And you know the only possible format will be a number, not a word like banana, you are going to go to ... and select response validation. From here, you're going to choose, I want it to be a number, and I want it to be a number that is greater than 0. And for my custom error text, that means if a student types in something besides a number greater than 0, I'm going to give them a reminder, please enter a number greater than 0. Now, if they type in 7, it will accept the answer, but if they type in -2, it will give them that error message. This is not the same thing, though, as my answer key. This just allows the response to be submitted, but it doesn't mean the response is correct. That's where I need my answer key, where I say 4, And now it's going to mark all other answers incorrect if it is not 4. Tip number 5 is to view your responses in sheets, not just on forms. When you go to responses, you can see everything students have done. Let me show you an example of one from a quiz I've given. I gave this to my WIN students. You click question, and you can toggle individual, question, summary. However, it gets a little confusing having to go back and forth like that. So the quickest and most efficient way to do it is to click View in Sheets. And now automatically all this data is right here for me to find easily in Sheets. I can see what questions were missed, how many students missed each question, and it can really help me to zero in on what benchmark I really need to hit. Tip number 6 is to use templates. So before you start from scratch, check out that template gallery. Let me show you how to get there. You're going to go to your drive, click the waffle, and click Forms. Now it's going to show you all the templates. If you select Template Gallery, it can show you general templates, or there's also templates that are set for your county as well that you can use. These templates can be very helpful in saving you time so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And tip number 7 is customizing your form. This one's not required, it's just for fun, but you might want your quiz to be aligned based off of the topic you're teaching. For example, if you just gave a science lesson and you were talking about tadpoles and frogs, you might want your quiz to represent that. You're going to select this paint palette here. You can change your text style as well as your font size for your header, your question, and your text. You can select any color you want, and you can choose an image to go on the top. So back to that idea we were talking about frogs, I can choose a photo I already have, or go to Google Images. Type in frog. I'm going to choose the picture that I want, and then I'm going to zoom right there. And now my header is a frog. You'll see that Google automatically pulled colors that match this picture palette. However, if you want your own, you'll just push the plus button and pick your own custom colors. And my final tip for you, tip 8, is to use locked mode. Now, caution, this only works if your students have Chromebooks. If they don't have Chromebooks, this is not the tip for you. But if you do have Chromebooks, this is going to make sure that your tests are even more secure. What it does is it locks the students from being able to open new tabs to maybe research the answers to the questions you are asking. How you're going to do that is go to Settings and select Locked Mode. That's it. It's as simple as that. That little click right there is going to help make sure that your assessments are more secure. All right, guys, so these are my top Google Forms efficiency tips. Again, you don't need to use everything. Just pick what's actually going to save you time. Now it is your turn. On the next slide, you will see some Thompson tips. I want you to try out a few of these tools for yourself, see what works best for your classroom, and I'll see you in the next video, and we're going to make sure we are turning you into a Google Master.